Hey, this is chapter 20, part 2. So at the end of the last chapter, Sam was about to tell Matt. Remember, Matt was the boy that came and saw him in the woods, or came upon him in the woods, and Sam was about to tell him that he had seen the boy. And so I have seen that boy. Matt's spell stopped. Gee, Sam, tell me about him. I could hear paper rattle and saw that Matt's cold hands were not too stiff to write in his notebook. We walked down the road a bit, and then I said, well, he ran away from home one day and never went back. Where does he live? What does he wear? We sat down on a stone along the edge of the road. It was behind a pine tree and out of the ripping wind. He lives west of here in a cave. He wears a bearskin coat, has long hair, all matted and full of burrs, and according to him, he fishes for a living. You've talked to him? He asked brightly. Oh, yes, I talked to him. Oh, this is great, he wrote furiously. What color are his eyes? I think they are bluish gray with a little brown in them. His hair? Darkish. I couldn't really tell under all those coontails. Coontails? Do you suppose he killed them himself? No, it looked like more like one of those hats you get with cereal box tops. Well, I won't say anything about it then. Coontail hat. Yeah, coontail hat. It's enough. I agreed. And I think his shoes were just newspapers tied around his feet. That's good insulation, you know. Yeah, Matt wrote that down. Did he say why he ran away? I never asked him. Why does any boy run away? Matt put down his pencil and thought. Well, I ran away once because I thought how sorry everybody would be when I was gone. How they'd cry and wish they'd been nicer to me, he laughed. Then I said I ran away once because, well, because I wanted to do something else. That's good reason, said Matt. Do you suppose that's why? By the way, what is his name? I never asked him, I said truthfully. What do you suppose he eats and lives on? Asked Matt. Fish, roots, berries, nuts, rabbits. There are a lot of good foods around the woods if you look for it, I guess. Roots? Roots wouldn't be good. Well, carrots are roots. By golly, they are, and so are potatoes, sort of. Fish? Pondered Matt. I suppose there are a lot of fish around here. The streams are full of them. You've really seen him, huh? He really is in these mountains. Sure, I've seen him, I said finally. I stood up. I gotta get home. I go the other way. You just follow this road to the town, and I think you can get a bus from there. Now wait, he said. Let me read it back to you to check the details. Sure. Matt stood up, blew on his hands, and read. The Wild Boys of the Catskills does exist. He has dark brown hair, black eyes, and wears a handsome deerskin suit that he's apparently made himself. He is ruddy and in excellent health and is able to build a fire with a flint and steel as fast as a man can light a match. His actual dwelling is a secret, but his means of support is a beautiful falcon. The falcon flies off the boy's fist and kills rabbits and pheasants when the boy needs food. He only takes what he needs. The boy's name is not known, but he ran away from home and never went back. So so did Matt figure out who Sam was? I think he did. No, Matt, no, I begged. I was about to wrestle it out of him when he said furtively, I'll make a deal with you. Let me spend my spring vacation with you, and I won't print a word of it. I'll only write what you've told me. I looked at him and decided that it might be nice to have him. I said, I'll meet you outside of town any day you say, provided you let me blindfold you and lead you to my home, and providing you promise not to have a lot of photographers hiding in the woods. Do you know what would happen if you told on me? Sure, the newsreels would reel up, the TV cameras would arrive, reporters would hang in the trees, and you'd be famous. Yes, and back in New York City. I'll write what you said, and not even your mother will recognize you. Make it some other town, and it's a deal, I said. You might say I'm working for civil defense doing research by learning to live off the land. Tell them not to be afraid, that crayfish are delicious and caves are warm. Matt liked that. He sat down again. Tell me some of the plants and animals you eat so that they will know what to do. We can make this informative. I sat down and listed some of the better wild plants and more easily obtainable mammals and fish. I gave him a few good recipes and told him that I didn't recommend anyone trying to live off the land unless they liked oysters and spinach. Mike liked that. He wrote and wrote. Finally, he said, My hands are cold. I better go, but I'll see you on April 12th at 3:30 outside of town, okay? And just to prove that I'm a man of my word, I'll bring you a copy of what I write. Well, you better not give me away. I have a scout in civilization who follows all these stories. We shook hands and he departed at a brisk pace. I returned to my patch in the mountain, talking to myself all the way. I talk to myself a lot, but everyone does. The human being, even in the midst of people, spends 9/10 of his time alone with private voices in his own head. Living alone on a mountain is not much different, except that your speaking voice gets rusty. I talked inside my head all the way home, thinking of schemes, holding conversations with Bando and Dad and Matt Spell. I worded the article for Matt after discussing it with Bando and made it sound very convincing without giving myself up. I kind of wanted to write it down and send it to Matt, but I didn't. Here's some pictures of the cattail, arrowleaf, the hawthorn, and the wild raspberry. I entered my tree, tied Frightful to the bedpost, and there was Jesse Coon James. It had been months and I'd seen him. Remember Jesse Coon James? Is a raccoon. He was curled up on my bed asleep. Aw. A turtle shell head that had been cracked, full of cracked walnuts, was empty beside him. He awoke, jumped to the floor, and walked slowly between my legs and out the door. I had the feeling Jesse was hoping I had departed for good and that he could have my den. He was a comfort-loving creature. I was bigger, and my hands were freer than his, so he conceded me the den. I watched him climb over the Baron's rock and shimmy up a hemlock. He moved heavily into the limbs, and it occurred to me that Jessie was a she Jessie, not a he Jessie. I cooked supper and then sat down by my little fire and called a forum. It is a very sociable inside my head, and I have perfected the art of getting a lot of people arguing together in silence or in a forum, as I prefer to call it. I can get 4 people all talking at once, and a 5th can be present, but generally I can't get him to talk. Usually these forums discuss such things as a storm and whether or not it is coming, and how to make a spring suit, and how to enlarge my house without destroying the life in the tree. Tonight, however, they discussed about what to do about Matt's spell. Dad kept telling me to go right down to the city and make sure he published nothing, not even a made-up story. Bando said, no, it's all right. He still doesn't know where you live. And then Mac bought into the conversation and said that he wanted to spend his spring vacation with me and that he promised not to do anything untoward. Matt kept using the word untoward. I don't know where he got that expression, but he liked it and kept using it. That's how I know Matt was speaking. Everything was untoward. That night I fell asleep with all these people discussing the probability of my being found and hauled back to the city. Suddenly, Frightful broke into conversation. She said, don't let that Matt come up here. He eats too much. That was the first time that Frightful had ever talked in a forum. I was delighted, for I was always sure that she had more to say than a few cries. She had not missed Matt's appetite. The forum dissolved in a good humor, everyone being delighted with Frightful. I lifted my head to look at her. She had her beak in the feathers of her back, sound asleep. She spoke in my head, however, and said, you really want to be found, or you would not have told Matt all you did. I like you better when you don't talk, I said, and pulled the deer hide over me and fell into a deep sleep. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 20. And go ahead and go look at the questions for today. See you tomorrow.